I got it. Okay. So he's very methodical, and he didn't do a lot of his own personal. He does sometimes do his personality, but this was, this was a very methodical video, step to step stuff of what to do, which I really like. And despite the methodical nature of the video, his personality comes shining through. You can see it here.
Really need to cook everything before you combine it together, put it in your bottle, and add your yeast. But because we're using spruce tips today, these are going to have a wild yeast on them.
I've always thought of him as a handsome man. The women like him. They should.
And what we
He's never been fat. He's always been in shape. He's always been a very physical person. The women in Denver. I think he was a what did they call that? He's a lady killer. He's always been a lady killer.
don't want is
I'm proud of it because he works a great deal towards that. I think he tries to be that. He's always been that, and not only that, but we've had several other friends like that too. He's got other friends that are like him too, that just like believe in good health and having a good body and being healthy.
on the surface. You're going to see it start to
He's quite the barista.
falling through the mixture.
I suppose that's maybe a little personal. I suppose I shouldn't reveal personal stuff about him, but
And
but I don't think that's kind of crazy. It's sort of like when I say I'm a taxi driver. I think it's okay to say that he was quite the barista actually for several years. He's also quite the restaurateur. He can run a restaurant. He worked at a restaurant for a long time, and and I respect those skills because it's something that I just don't never had the discipline for a true career. I did. I did the taxi thing for 17 years. I did. I either delivered food or I drove taxi or I drove Uber and shit. It wasn't 17 years. It was like 13 years on and off and gaps here and there over a 25-year period. But yeah, I did do a lot of driving. I drove a lot of taxi and I built my own successful business. I even drove for the cartel there for a bit. It was insane.
very long till this actually starts to produce.
And and I have my own business, and I don't want to say it because it doxes me, but I have my own LLC and all this stuff. They I don't want to dox myself, but I've had an LLC. I built successful businesses like him for a long time. He was a huge inspiration to me because he was fearless in going towards whatever it is he wanted, and if we wanted marijuana, then he went and got it. He's a very I got it person, and I've always thought of that as a shining example in my community. He didn't go pay the fucking he didn't go pay the fucking fees. He just made his own DIY.
some CO2 as it starts.
His house always came across as like uh, a chemist growing like chandlery or something. I mean, I don't know what else you would call it. It was like a craftsman's house. He had a craft. His father and his mother and he and his sister all had like proclivities for craftsmanship.
To eat up that
And their house was like this bastion to craftsmanship. I always felt this way. We used to do industrial things at his house. It was kind of cool. At one time I helped him trim marijuana.
sugar in the honey and
He doesn't do such silly things anymore, I don't think, or at least he might, but probably not professionally, because I think he's got a real job as a tour guide. But there was a time when I think some, if not all, of his income came from marijuana, which is a really strong thing when you actually consider what it takes to do. I know because I helped him with it quite a bit.
into lovely, lovely wine. Now, last step.
I believed in what he was doing. I was like, we should liberate ourselves from the liquor stores and the goddamn marijuana dispensaries and stuff and the drug dealers. We should liberate ourselves from those things. I still feel this way. I still feel like I should be brewing all of my alcohol, but the problem is I worry my parents when I do stuff like that, so I just don't. I don't make my own alcohol. It'll freak my mom out. She'll be like, you're too much of an alcoholic. You're drinking too much. And I would drink too much if I was making my own alcohol, so I just don't do stuff like this. I don't grow marijuana. I don't make liquor because I know I'll just drink all the time. I'll be completely drunk all the time.
This needs an airlock.
I have he never had this issue. I think he's had compulsive stuff with drugs before, just like me. He's had drug addictions, but I wouldn't say that but they've never been a problem for him like they were for me. I'm
There's
sure there were times in his life when it was scary and there were problems, but and there were he was hardcore, maybe more hardcore than I was actually. It's insane, but like I don't know. I didn't know his scene and he didn't know mine. He doesn't know my friend A. He's never met my friend A, but she runs Denver. She full blown still runs Denver. She runs all of Denver. She's like the most successful drug dealer in Denver.
multiple different models.
Her phone, like like one of the things that kind of happened with her, one of the reasons that she was my friend is when I was a taxi driver, I had this ex-girlfriend who would text me all fucking day, and this is something that she understood and thought was funny, and it opened up it opened up the, like, it was an icebreaker because she was like, your phone rings like my phone rings, and I'm like, yeah, I can't stand my fucking ex-girlfriend, or well, she's my ex-girlfriend now, but I was like, I can't stand how much my girlfriend texts me. I just ignore it now. And she's like, yeah, that's like all of my customers. I ignore all of my customers and I take the people that I have to take and that I can take right now. And I was like, man, you must make a lot of money, huh? And she's like, yeah, I do, and I have a lot of product too. And I was like, oh, nice. And she was like, yeah, I do pretty fucking well. And I was like, yeah, nice, cool. And she ended up being like, she is the badass kingpin. She runs that city. She full blown is. I ran straight to the top. When I became a kingpin, it's because I became best friends with the #1 drug dealer in Denver. I didn't go looking for it. I didn't go hunting for it. I just happened to drive her one night in my taxi. That's literally how it ended up being. And she introduced me to her mother. Her mother liked me. And she's like, you need to look out for my daughter. She's going to end up dead one of these days. And I'm like, okay, I'll look out for your daughter. Sure. She fucking fly. I fucking want to fuck I still want to fuck the shit out of A. She's so fucking fly. She's so hot. And she's so rich. And she's so successful. And it's insane. And like I'm sure that Jed had people in his scene exactly like that as well. I guarantee it.
These are actually probably the
So
cheapest.
it's sort of crazy. It's just like nuts. I know that we lived kind of similar lives, but we didn't have the same scene, even though we were in the same city. It was kind of insane.
And
And I only ran for about 5 years. He was in the scene for fucking 20 or something like that.
last a super long time. So it's actually going to be
I
three
mean,
pieces
he's still technically in the scene. He's a socialite, the likes of which Denver has never seen. I know a few people like this. One of them is my friend Elle's ex-girlfriend. She's like the premier socialite in Denver. She runs the scene at Beta nightclub, and she runs that scene. She runs the dubstep scene. I really love her. She's my friend B. I really love that girl. I fucking love my friend B. She's a badass. She knows I love her too. She knows how much I love that girl. I love her sister too. Fucking some of my best friends. I really love those girls. I really do. They're fucking badass. They run Beta. They run the Beta nightclub scene. They still do. 10 years later, they're old, but they still run the dubstep scene. They run the dubstep scene. So I really respect those women. They saved them. They saved us. Without those girls, Jed and I never would have known what dubstep was. Jed was a dubstep god. He brought dubstep to fucking Denver. We didn't know what dubstep was until Jed. I had no idea. I had no idea what I didn't meet. Well, I knew B and A, the two sisters. I knew them, and I knew that they were into EDM, but I didn't know what dubstep was until Jed. Jed taught me what dubstep is.
of your bung cap.
That's a really crazy thing, like to say that, but it is true. Jed taught me what dubstep truly is.
So this is going to go.
He went so hard on dubstep. He probably heard it in his restaurant, right? The kids play music at the restaurant when they're working in the kitchen and stuff, and he heard that shit in the kitchen. I guarantee it. The best music always comes from the restaurant kitchens. I know, because I used to work a lot of food retail like him, and all the best music you hear was always in the kitchen, because the shit's got to be good. There's like 30 people listening to it, right? So the shit that you hear in the kitchen's got to be fucking good. It's got to be really good. And he brought dubstep to our fucking scene and saved my fucking life. Saved my life, he did. Without dubstep, I would be fucking dead. I'd be fucking dead without dubstep. I feel this way. I feel very strongly about that. I fucking love me some dubstep, and I'd be fucking dead without it. I love dubstep. It goes deep. It runs deep. Dubstep runs deep in my heart and soul.
And before you
the Denver dubstep scene was so good for a while.
this, you do want
I
to make sure
remember for a while I thought Adventure Club was the greatest DJ to ever exist. You
to
know,
sanitize.
like I don't know, they weren't. They weren't at all. They were like a pop flash in the band DJ, but they were still so fucking good. I saw them live at Beta. They fucking changed my life. I saw them live with my friend D and motherfucking Beta. I saw Adventure Club live, and yes, they saved my life at the crescendo. At the crescendo of the fucking show, they played Gold Dust, and it was like the greatest moments of my entire life. It was like it wasn't Gold Dust, it was Crave You. They played Crave You at the crescendo, which was insane. And Crave You is one of my favorite songs of all time. It's a terrible pop song and I hate it, but I love that song. It goes deep in my bones. And I would be nothing without Jed. I would be nothing without Jed. Jed saved me. He brought me to dubstep. I never would have known.
Is it?
I was listening to fucking grunge, you know?
So mine's already been through Star Sandy.
Jed is an EDM fucking living god. He knows more about EDM than anybody else I know, I don't think. I can't think of it. Maybe my friend B, who runs the Beta nightclub scene, she might know more than him, but I don't think so. He's been doing it longer, and not as much, I don't think, but still, I think he's had more connections to different crowds than her. She's in a little bit more of an echo chamber. He's been in the social scene for 20 years, learning everything there is to know about Denver.
He rents. Now it also has.
He was a shining. I hate kissing his fucking ass like this, but he was a shining bastion. You know, he is a shining bastion to our community. He always has been. He's never done anybody dirty that I've ever heard of. I don't think he's ever done anything bad. I don't.
Cylinder.
Do drugs like me. I don't think I've done some bad things, but I've not done anything like rape or murder or anything like that. You know what I'm saying? We've all done bad things. I've bared arms. I've hunted police. I've gone to drug deals with guns before and shit like this. I've been a bad person. I've been a drug dealer and shit like this, but I don't think I ever harmed anybody, and I doubt he ever did either.
And also the actual airline.
I doubt he ever did. If he did, it would have been in defense, you know? Yep. This man, he doesn't have anything but a stoic level head, you know? Like my other best friend. I was the dramatic one in the circle. I'm the one that fucking, like, yells, you know? These kids, they don't yell. They're not loud. They're loud, but they're not, like, you know... They're boisterous like me, and I taught them, my personality. I'm like, no, you gotta live out loud. You gotta be motherfucking loud! You understand? You gotta be fucking loud. You gotta be loud. I used to yell. I didn't give a flying fuck what they thought of how loud I talk, or the fact that I talk over them, or that we'll have 5 conversations going at the same time and shit like this. I don't care. I taught them to be that way. I don't know why. I just did. That's who I am. I'm crazy.
Fuck here.
They're so weird. They had to put up with so much shit from me. They're so weird. I don't know why they love me as much as they did. Like they put up with so much shit from me.
On the top.
They had to come save my life one time because I was like living with a fucking drugged out fucking girl in downtown. They came and they were like, okay, your relationship is over. We're here to save your life and get you out of this situation forever. And I was like, really? And yeah, they were like, get your shit. And I was like, okay. And I got my shit. And they fucking pulled me out of there. They fucking drugged me out of the goddamn gutter. That was Jed. Fucking Jed is such a fucking hero.
So this airlock is going to allow gas.
There goes my hero. He's ordinary.
Into the cylinder. It will lift up this interior piece, and it will bubble out through these.
See, this shit's good content for the stream. It's not just his video; it's my content too. Like we can kind of riff on each other. It's fucking sweet. Like I don't even think he's probably watching, but like it doesn't matter whether he is or not. This shit just writes itself. It writes itself.
Escape.
He's probably annoyed that I'm not listening to him, but see, I can always come back to this video 50 more times, and I'm going to. And I'm going to fucking memorize every word, and then I'm going to do the process, but I'm not going to do it quickly, and I'm not going to do it soon.
Causing your mixture to actually explode.
But this is like the 7th or 8th time I've watched this video, and I'm going to get to something like 50, and I am memorizing what he's saying. You know what I'm saying? I actually am.
So, I fill these with 50% glycerin, 50% water.
Glycerin.
You can just use water itself.
Yeah.
But again, you do want to make sure that any
glycerin
of this
might be good
that you're using is going to be sterilized before you start to use it. And look, we're already starting to get some action from our yeast. You can see it had fallen down to the bottom initially, and now it's beginning to rise back up to the top. So it'll be chewing up that sugars here.
Look, it's like doing it like right there
rapidly.
for him. It's like the universe danced for him. It's so beautiful, kind of.
But
It is like watching an alchemist work.
that last piece
And he's like, look, it's starting to rise, and it is beautiful. It's like a sunset or something. It's beautiful.
goes on top.
There's so much beautiful math in these things rising to the top of the water, like the kind of physics that even AI can't do. It's sort of insane. Like there's so much beautiful math in it.
And
Watching the little petals or whatever, little flakes like coming to the top. The physics of it are really beautiful.
in about a month, this fermentation will be done.
A month, okay, 30
and
days.
You can drink it at that point, but it's going to be pretty fiery in terms of alcohol flavor.
Okay.
Now, if you're following a lot of
homebrew,
more old recipes. Or
older homebrew recipes.
Ancient recipes for this.
Okay.
Roman mead or Viking mead would oftentimes be left for a minimum of 3 months.
3 months!
And sometimes upwards of 3 years.
3 years!
So this is one that you can just stick in your closet and forget about. As long as it's in a temperature stable place, nothing's really going to happen to it. Maybe about once a month, check in and make sure that your water is still up to the minimum fill line.
My favorite story about Jed is my own story, which is like when I was like 22 or something like that. I stole, I think it was like 3 or 4 hits of acid from him. He was living in my house as a roommate, and he kept acid in the freezer. And I stole the acid from him, and I tripped. And then I like told him while I was tripping that I'm sorry. Well, I didn't tell him. Excuse me. I didn't tell him. No, I lied, and I was like, I wonder what happened or whatever, and I just sort of pretended that I didn't steal the acid. But everybody knew that I stole the acid. And I have a problem with drugs, and I can't really handle having drugs around me. I just do them. If I see drugs, I just kind of do them. I don't care what it is. I don't care what it is. It could be Datura. If it's ready to be imbibed, I'll eat the Datura. I don't care what it is. And it sucks. And I have a weakness for this. If I see drugs fucking sitting there, I will just do them. I'm an asshole. I don't care if they're your drugs. I don't care. I have always been a fucking fiend. I'm a fucking fiend. I've always been a fiend. I'm like literally the definition of the word. I'm a fucking fiend. You can't leave your drugs on the counter around me. I will just do them, and then I would just apologize to you and told you that I did them. It's fucked up, but I mean, it is just who it was. So I carried this with me. I lied to him about it, and I hid it. And I carried it with me for 12 years like a fucking moron. And then one day I just broke down crying and I told him. And he was like, yeah, I knew you took the acid. And why did you carry this? Why did you carry this for so long? And I was like, I don't know. I'm an idiot. He's like, you're not an idiot. Just, don't steal and don't, it's good you finally fessed up or whatever. And I was like, yeah, I've been carrying this for 12 years. And it's really like that one time I crossed a friend that I really fucking regret. It was like one of my few regrets. I stole that acid from him. He never truly trusted me ever again, and I don't blame him. That's the story with me. I don't blame him. None of them trust me. I've stolen from all of them really bad. I'm a bit of a thief. It fucking sucks. I haven't stolen anything of the import from them, but like.
That's part of why I use.
I'm a communal person. I just use whatever's around me. It's kind of dumb. I've always been a communal person. I'm just like, here's my cigarettes, here's my pot. We can smoke it if you want. Here's my food. We can eat it if you want. And not everybody is like that. Sometimes you definitely shouldn't steal acid from the fucking freezer from your best friend or whatever. It's fucked up. One of your best friends. It's fucked up. I learned the lesson of what it did to me. For like 10 years, I used to cry myself to sleep at night, and I'd be like, why did I steal that acid? What the fuck? What the fuck? Why did I steal that acid from him? And he was like, you should not have grilled yourself for years about it. Like, if nothing else, you shouldn't have killed yourself about it. And I was like, I did. I felt so fucking guilty. I'm so sorry. That is not how friends should treat each other. It was so fucked up. But it is a sign it was a sign. It helped me understand that I was a fiend. I think it was helpful, as shitty as that sounds. I think I grew from understanding that I was a fucking fiend who had no self-control around drugs.
Glycerin mixture is
Like even the dealers, I would just pick up their fucking bong. I would walk into the fucking hotel and I would just pick up their goddamn bong. I'd be like, "How are you doing today?" I'd straight hit their bong right the fucking front of them. You know, drugs are different. Like I'm talking about a crack bong full of meth and shit. If that dude might have loaded $55 worth of fucking meth in that bowl. You can't just go pick it up and smoke it. But I did. I did it all the time. I'd be like, "Hey, can I hit it? Can I hit it?" And then I'd be like a fucking fiend, and it didn't matter whether they said yes or not. It didn't really matter. It's just like, you know, I'm gonna get high now. It doesn't matter. I was such a fiend. I was a fucking fiend. I was a fiend. Even for that acid, I was ready to throw away like one of the best friendships of my goddamn life over some fucking hits of acid. See, that's how much of a fiend I was. I was a fucking fiend. I did not have strength around drugs. My friends knew too. I had a weakness about this. When I was like 16, my friend JF, my friends all know this person too. He used to keep these big jars of marijuana in his fucking desk. And I would just go in there. I would just go in there. I would steal like, you know, 3-4 bowls for tonight or whatever. I would just go in there and be like, hey, there's this marijuana. Yoink. You know? I didn't care. I did that for years, and they all knew somebody was doing it. They're like, somebody here is just full-blown pocketing bowls of weed out of Jay's jar. It was me. I stole your drugs. That's the thing that Skycatlive does. I'm not the guy who buys. Well, I'm sometimes am the guy who buys the drugs. I am the guy who buys the drugs, but also I'm the guy who stole your drugs. You know that you've been Skycatted if I've stolen drugs from you.
it doesn't evaporate quite as
So
fast.
eventually I noticed that all of the drugs around me were being hidden. I'm not proud of this. It sounds like I'm proud of it. I'm not proud of this. These are deep regrets that I've got, you know? I'm not proud of this, but there was this period in my life where, yeah, the drugs stopped being out on the table. Yeah. That stopped happening.
Fast as just water does.
Am I proud of it? No, I'm not proud of it. I just am that person. I'm that fiend who just fucking picks it up and smokes it. I don't really give a fuck who owns it. I don't care.
And you can actually...
I like drugs. I like getting high. Fuck it. I want to get high. Fuck it. You know? Fuck it. I'm on one. Fuck it.
Forget about it for a little bit longer before having to check on it to make sure that you still have water in here.
He was such a more stoic, balanced, self-controlled, wait for the cookie, don't eat it now, you'll get 2 cookies person. I will eat the cookie now, don't put it down on the fucking table or I'm going to eat the cookie. I am the eat the cookie now person. I'm Cookie Monster. I'm like, nope, we're getting high now. We're getting high right now. Nope, I'm not waiting until 3 p.m. tonight or something until school's over. We're getting high at 5:15 in the motherfucking morning. Deal with it. I'm not waiting. I'm getting high now. It's 5:15 in the fucking morning. I'm getting high. I don't care.
Get into your mixture.
I don't care. Teachers, parents, I don't fucking care. I don't care about those things. I'm getting high right the fuck now. If you've got a fucking meth pipe sitting on the fucking counter, I am smoking that motherfucker. I don't care who you are.
That can cause both off.
Yeah, it causes problems. It fucking sucks. It's always caused problems. I'm pretty free with other people's drugs. It's fucking annoying. But I'm a fucking dope fiend. That's what I do. I've been a dope fiend since I was like 22. I'm a fucking dope fiend. That's what I actually do. I can't stand seeing drugs that aren't being used. It offends me. When I see drugs that aren't being done, they're just sitting there in someone's, you know, dresser or on their table or something. There's a whole loaded bowl or something like that just sitting there. No, that's not right. Get to smoking it now, or I'll just pick it up and start smoking it. Fuck it. I don't care.
Flavors and
did you pay for that dope? No, I didn't, but here's fucking $10. I'm terribly sorry. I'm a fiend. Here you go. No, I didn't. Nope. Here we go. Whatever. You know, no, I didn't.
Cause other yeast or bacteria to start growing, and you might ruin your batch.
And so, yeah, it's because loading a bowl of meth is like $10. It's like $10, you know? It's like loading like $5 or $10. It's insane. It's actually really expensive. A bowl of meth is like $10, $15, $20, something like that. It is insane. I don't I would just pick it up and smoke it. I don't give a flying fuck who put the $20 worth of dope in that pipe. I'm smoking it. I'm a fucking fiend. I've always been a fiend. I don't have control around drugs. It's fucking annoying. I don't like admitting this. It's the thing about myself that got me in the most trouble, the most problems, all of my goddamn life. The fact that I'm a fucking fiend who has no self-control. I don't like talking about this. This is my least favorite thing about myself.
So you really don't want to have that happen.
But I still stole the acid from him. I still did it. I still fess up to it. I maintained the friendship somehow. I don't know how, but I stole the acid from him. It doesn't change the fact that I fucking fucked him. It fucking sucks. Why did I do that? Because I'm a fucking fiend. I see drugs, I just do them.
Sure, there's water in here.
I couldn't go to his house because he constantly had marijuana everywhere. I was like, I love going to your house, but I can't come here. There's marijuana and fucking liquor wherever I look, and I can't smoke it. I just want to smoke all that weed right now. It might not even be cured. It doesn't matter. It's in his house, and I'm just staring at it. I'm like, oh my God, you have so much liquor and so much weed in your house. I mean, he's not like that anymore, but he was back then, and it's like...
But...
I couldn't do it. I was like, oh my God, it's like going into a dispensary, but it's your friend. It's not a dispensary. It's just your friend, you know? It's insane. It's like going into a dispensary. You're like, oh my God, this guy has like 50 pounds of marijuana. I'm so fucking jealous of him. I can't come to his house. I'll just smoke his weed.
You can already see
I'm such a fiend. We definitely did kind of bump heads sometimes like this, where I wouldn't hang around him as much as I should have, because I knew that my fiend ass should probably not be around him, kind of. I might actually be a really bad influence, kind of. I definitely never, ever, ever smoked meth with him. I definitely never did that. Thank fuck God. Or I probably would have wrecked all of our lives. I wanted to. I pulled out the pipe a couple times and I was like, you should try this. But he probably has, honestly. He has. He knows how dumb it is.
Zoom in on this a little bit.
He knows how dumb that shit is.
You can already see it starting to bump.
I did something to our friendship one night that I felt was necessary, that I can't believe I did this to him. But in this kitchen that we're looking at right here, I just pulled out my meth pipe and I was like, this is what I'm on now. I just straight told him. I was like, now nobody knows. Nobody knows. I was like, I don't even think Sen knows. Nobody knows. I just told him, I was like, this is what I'm on now. I don't believe in lying to you anymore. And he was like, I get it. I was like, I'm sorry that I brought a meth pipe into your house. It's just, if I go outside with it, they could throw me in jail for 10 years. And he's like, it's okay. I understand. Don't do it again. And I was like, I won't, I promise. And I didn't. But it was just, but it sucks. I did that to him though. I just came up into his house and I pulled out my meth pipe while we were standing in his kitchen. And I told him, this is what I'm on now. Because I don't fuck around. I don't really believe in lying. I do it sometimes when I do it to spare people's feelings or whatever. But I don't really believe in lying as this solution to anything.
Bubble in the airlock on top.
If you're lying, it's to spare. If you're lying in a good way, it's probably to spare somebody's feelings. If you have to do that, the friendship probably isn't that good. If you have to spare somebody's feelings by lying to them, like if you cheated on your spouse and that you lied to them about it, if you have to spare their feelings so much so that you lie to them about cheating on them, I posit that the relationship was never that good in the first place. And that's fucked up. But I give a lot of relationship advice sometimes.
So it really gets going.
If you feel you need the lie, if you feel like you need to spare that person's feelings, if they can't handle the truth of how weak you are or something that you did or something like that, then, but I did it with the acid because I couldn't admit it. I couldn't admit it to myself that I had been that weak. It was hard. I couldn't admit it to myself even. It wasn't just him. They saw it when it happened and they knew what happened. They knew what I did the day that it happened. They both did. All of my best friends knew. They knew what I did. And it was insane. And I was in self-denial about it. And they saw this and they just didn't push it with me. I was like in self-denial about it. I full-blown believed that I got away with it or something. It was just insane. It was just stupid. And I lived in regret for so long. I should have just fucking told him. I learned the lesson after the 12 years of holding that shit in like a fucking cancer. That the lying just is never worth it. It's just never worth ever doing. It's just not worth it. I'll tell them about the black tar heroin. I tell the people in my channel all the time. I tell them about black tar heroin and fucking strippers and motels and kingpin shit and motherfucking driving the cartel around and shit like this. I tell them it happened. It fucking sucks. I tell them. I don't try to hide this shit. I was a ghetto rat.
And after a while,
I was a ghetto rat drug dealer, piece of shit criminal for like 7 years. And I'm not proud of it, but I mean I am proud of it, but I'm not proud of like what it did to me or my community or my people or anything like that. I'm not proud of it. So I don't but I don't hide it. I learned from stealing the acid from Jed that the lying just doesn't help me. It doesn't help them. It's only self-denial. It only fucking serves you. It's a selfish thing. It's really terrible, and I haven't really told a lie since then. I'll just straight tell them to their fucking face if I was weak and I took their drugs, or I was weak and I stole their money, or I just would full-blown just tell them. I would tell them that I would, I've stolen from their collection plate and stuff like this. I've told them this stuff because the lying doesn't serve. You just need to admit that you're a fucking fiend and tell them why. And, I wanted to buy drugs,
It's definitely a lot of fun to watch it ferment.
It is. Yeah, this is really fun. It genuinely is. I like this hobby, and I intend to do this hobby. One of the reasons I told my friend I was doing this, and I do so pointedly. It's not to kiss his ass or draw his attention or anything like that. I intend to fill the hole that will be left after my parents pass with distilling. I'm gonna take up a hobby. I'm gonna use their living room, and I'm gonna do as Jed did for 20 years, and I'm gonna live the memory of my parents on through the hobby of distilling. But I don't have the I have the ability to do it right now, but I don't want to do it while they're alive. I think she thinks that I'm an alcoholic. My family. So I just don't want her thinking that. So I don't drink that much, not that much compared to like somebody with a problem. And so, yeah, I want to drink a lot of liquor while I'm here doing this stream. I know that I am. I drink a lot, I definitely do. And so I think of this hobby as it's a hobby that I want to do, but I'm halfway focused on it. I admit that I'm definitely mangling this and interrupting him a lot and not listening and stuff like this. And I admit that I'm not listening to him because I intend to come back to this video like 50 times. I'm going to memorize every word, and I'm going to do the process like a week after my parents are both gone, I'll just fucking, I'll fill the hole with distillery, and there will be no shame to my family anymore. I can live as I want to live and just distill weed mead and stuff like that, grow marijuana, and I will because, it's legal. There's no reason not to. It keeps me from having to pay the fucking liquor stores and the fucking dope stores and so this gift that Jed gave me with this video, I don't think he understands it, but I say it. I do say it. The power of the video, the knowledge that it brings me it's going to allow me to be a joyous, wonderfully happy person all of my life. It's I say these things because it matters, I needed the knowledge. I needed to know that I could do this, that I could be off the grid, that I could not be reliant on. I'm such a dope fiend. I paid some drug dealer all of my money since I was like 13 years old. I'm such a dope fiend. I still blow $1,200 a year on marijuana twist canisters. You know what I'm saying? $1,200. That's a lot of money. It's not that much money, but it's a lot. It's a habit. It's a drug habit. I still have a drug habit, And I think about it all the time. I've been some form of fiend all of my life. It's made me act like a fucking fiend. It's a terrible thing.
Spruce mead. And if you like recipes like this, if you enjoy wild foraging and wild food making, tune in next time to Pondering on the Pines. Drop us a like and a follow. Let us know what you'd like to see us work on next for our kitchen recipes.
Epic Turkey Showdown. Yes. Fucking yes. This is how video games are. Fuck these fucking nerds. They're always neck to neck with you like this. It's so annoying. I hate this about video games. This is exactly how video games are too. It drives me nuts. Often I'll literally mock them to their face and be like, what? You want to bump some titties? You want to bump some titties? What? What? Fucking what? You want to bump some titties? What? What? Epic. You want to bump some titties? There's a trip to watch. Chad was like, yeah, the one that currently had the other's head in his mouth was the victor. It was a trip to watch. Oh my god. I love Colorado. We don't fuck around. The mountains, they make you a real one. The mountains make you a real one. They definitely do. The turkeys don't fuck around. They're real ones. They live up in that mountain where there's like 15,000 different predators and stuff that are after them. These fucking turkeys are real ones. Yeah, they're real ones. They're like out there having their drama. They're not even thinking about anybody else. They're out there having that turkey drama. I fucking love turkey drama. I didn't know how much I like turkey drama, but I like turkey drama. Turkey drama is my new obsession. Turkey drama is my new obsession. This is Richard Attenborough's like quality stuff. It absolutely is. It's just as good as Blue Planet or something. It's so fucking good. This is Richard Attenborough quality shit. It absolutely is. It's just, it boggles my mind. It's fucking so beautiful. He had to zoom in pretty far to be able to actually see it. But yeah, wow. Fucking amazing. Protective mama moose leaves with her baby. Yeah, a moose will kill you. Fucking moose don't fuck around. I'm gonna go get something to drink. I'll be right back. You guys don't have big fucking rice balls like me. another daiquiri type thing. I love my magic bullet. I love crushing ice in that fucking magic bullet. It's actually so good. Having crushed ice all the time, like some kind of bar, is so dope. I didn't know. Oh yeah. This was last year, March 29th. Oh no, this is I-25 and like 35th or something. Yeah, it is. It's the light rail station at I-25 and 35th. This guy's gonna flip. Oh no, what happened? Oh my god. It's Park Meadows. Oh my god. Oh, okay. Colorado. My god, he has a good camera. Look at how much detail his camera got here. Beautiful. Yeah, don't ever go up here without help and people and fire and warmth and clothes and changes of socks and, you know, food, water. You'll die. Okay, this was enough of Jed. We're going back to my content now. I feel like I stole his content enough. But yeah, Hells yeah. Really good. I fucking love Jed's content. Hells yeah.
That happened that year before that depressing third quarter of 2022 was something that most people don't know about, and that was the coordinated hate raids in the ESO directory for Twitch and Discord, conducted by a group connected to alt-right and white nationalist movements.
What?
The group was led by a disgruntled 5 IQ PvPer, which is what?
Wait, we have to go back here. Go back here. This took such a weird, dumb turn so fast.
My ferrets after Elder Scrolls Things. In 2022, several events occurred, one of which was Update 35, probably the worst patch to ever occur in this MMO's history, which finally happened after the rather sudden dissolution of the ESO class representative program. But another thing that happened that year before that depressing third quarter of 2022 was something that most people don't know about, and that was the coordinated hate raids in the ESO directory for Twitch and Discord, conducted by a group connected to alt-right and white nationalist movements. The group was led by a disgruntled 5 IQ PvPer, which is why it took place in the ESO sphere initially. And it was my community, my guild, basically on the front lines yet again, shielding a lot of the ESO community, just as it had for multiple incidents and bad actors prior to this specific incident, that noticed what was brewing roughly 2 weeks before those hate raids went into full effect, which ultimately dissuaded quite a lot of streamers to no longer stream in the ESO directory. We sent warnings out to both the hard mode stream team and to ZeniMax Online Studios through the ESO stream team, but for the latter, it wasn't taken super seriously initially and potentially seen as, oh, just another instance of PvP drama, which was extremely frustrating. Long story short, it wasn't until the hate raids started getting out of control, even leaking into other Twitch directories for some of you who may remember that year, and the group trolling a legal customer service rep, that Bethesda ZeniMax Online Studios actually sent legal warnings to the aforementioned individual's physical address and worked with Twitch and Discord, which halted most of what was going on. During the course of those hate raids, attempts to dox and harass me along with some of my streamer friends got to an all-time high. We played it cool, and at least for the hard mode stream team. And
yeah, I mean, Republicans are pieces of shit, yeah.
Discord servers we could coordinate in as a community of moderators. We mitigated most of the potential damages, though I can't say the same for many others affected. I was verbally
I'm
told
kidding. Not all Republicans are pieces of shit. I'm kidding.
on the phone later on, basically.
I just say it to be provocative. Because I don't like either party. Fuck them.
We're sorry that we didn't take you seriously at first, and that future precautionary measures will be taken, the details of which I will obviously not get into for safety reasons. But after
Obviously. Now, I'm going to go cook some of those kimchi rice balls now. I'll be right back. I'm hungry. Okay. Need a plate. Rice balls. Oh. Oh. Do I add anything to it or whatever? No. Alright. What else do we have? Yes. Yeah. We'll do this. And then we'll do this with cutting. Snip corner of pouch and place in a microwave. Do not cook Okay. Works for me. I'm gonna have an Asian teriyaki bowl with some kimchi rice balls.
that, a lot of people in my community felt disillusioned.
I'm sorry that happened.
With the initial response from the company and the seeming lack of effort in moderating actual very serious offenders, even after we've proven to be right about that whole thing.
Yeah, this is video games. Why do you guys need to make the space feel like that? It's video games. It doesn't need to feel weird and shitty like that. Ain't nobody got time for that. It's fucking video games. Why do you need to make it like a fucking sewer? Why? There's no reason to treat your fellow gamers like that. Why? Because you're racist or whatever?
Some people decided it was no longer worth it to put ourselves on the front line ever again, which was further reinforced by the effects of Update 35. Now, to give context as to what Update 35 was, much of the patch was combat reworking and balancing, which in itself is fine, but the actual proposed changes were nonsensical, extreme, and poorly timed, not even 3 months after the release of the latest expansion, which featured a new raid, where essentially a lot of people's progress in it would be reset due to how much playstyles and even healing itself would change. Of course, the update was announced after the dissolution of the ESO class rep program, which was incredibly bad PR. The creative director at the time made the worst tweets possible that made people feel very invalidated, and it was just not a good time. The announcement of these changes, not even the launch of the actual patch, demolished player trust in the capability of the developers to understand what they were doing with the game. In regards to the aforementioned Project Vitality, that saw over a dozen raids being hosted daily and allowed people who had never raided before to be eased into harder PvE content at a friendly rate, all to show the company that, hey, you know, people are really interested in endgame, and so maybe hear us out on some of many sorely needed ideas for
the microwave
systems. That project, which involved almost 300 raid leads across Xbox, PlayStation, and PC platforms and servers.
I'm gonna have to restart this video. I'm gonna have to restart my computer. I'm sorry, I got disconnected. Oh, maybe I'm back up actually. No, wait. Do I have a connection? I don't think I do. Oh, I do. Good. Sorry about that. My
Contains well when
microwave
patched with
trips my heater. My heater trips my microwave, and I forget, and I leave the heater on, and then I run the microwave, and then I trip the power. It's fucking annoying. Oh, I got blocked.
we would see guilds and communities turtle up and prioritize themselves rather than some, communal project, which is exactly what happened. And the game is still feeling the effects of Update 35 years later. I still had some optimism though, and just like all the other patches where combat was for some baffling reason changed drastically, we tested all the changes. And when the finalized Update 35 went live, we went raiding with a progression group in the new trial. And there's a video I made called The Worst MMO Update Ever that shows my immediate reaction after we realized just how much most groups would be forced to regress and lose weeks, in some cases months, of progression. It was bad. And the next day after that raid, after that video was published, I get asked to do a phone call by a ZeniMax Online Studios
No
CM
way.
or community manager.
Wow, you got a phone call? Jesus. Why would I mean? Okay, is this done? Yeah, I don't think this is ready and done. Okay, sorry about that. Just cooking my dinner. No, no, no. Oh, scary.
The phone call itself was super awkward. There was a lot of hesitation in the air when it was implied someone higher up had tapped the CM and asked them to talk to me about that video. I was asked nervously if I still wanted to work with them as a ESO content creator, and I was like, sure, I still love the game despite its issues, and I respect the developers. Then I was given a weird lecture about how responsibility comes with power as a content creator, and that I should not make shock jockey content like Howard Stern does, how I needed to be constructive and not emotional. I was warned, or maybe threatened in retrospect, about how the gaming industry was small and other companies wouldn't work with a content creator who was unprofessional. I was told I shouldn't say things that I wouldn't say to a developer's face in person. After that bizarre call, my initial reaction was, man, I must have been way too emotional, or maybe I had made some really crude remarks, and so I rewatched that video. which again, by the way, is still up on YouTube. And unlike some other content creators at the time, it's very clear I did not call for people to be fired. I did not debase the developers. I did not call for people to stop playing the game.
So
I did
good.
not send death threats. I said things I would and have absolutely already told face to face with developers in person. And I did nothing but convey the reality of the situation with some warranted emotion. I asked a few other people for their input. And at the end of my introspection, it felt bad. It felt like I was a private punching bag for at least one developer or executive over at ZeniMax Online Studios who didn't have the courage to approach me directly, or at least communicate what they really felt to the public, and instead took it out on me for being honest about how people, including myself, were feeling. I was kind of in shock as well, because this was the first time since I joined their creator program in 2020 to basically censor my content, despite the ESO Stream Team guidelines saying, yeah, you don't have to be a cheerleader, but you should be constructive, which I was. And this was when things got extremely lonely and depressing for me. On one side, I was being used as a punching bag behind the scenes, which I couldn't really talk about at the time. And on the other, thousands of you guys labeled me as a corporate shill or someone who can't be.
I'll be right back.
Trusted to not speak my mind because I didn't quit the game, despite me trying my absolute best, absolute hardest behind the scenes to speak for you. I felt like I had no way to win, so I just did what I always did. I spoke my mind, I made videos I wanted to make, I made builds I had fun with, I managed my guild, but it did feel lonely and tremendously stressful for me to the point that I got shingles for the first time in my life, and I had to go to the hospital. And 2023 was an interesting year where it became even more clear to me that for some reason there was obvious favoritism and cliques within the ESO Stream Team. I think that stuff was always there. I never noticed because I never really bothered to involve myself in that kind of stuff because I have better things to do. Another content creator and I, along with some close confidants, felt that we were basically there to fulfill the minority checks at that point, really? Despite them maybe not liking us because we're Asian. You know, you got to have some Asians, some gay people, and certain types on the team because it looks good. Yeah. I'm not saying that was their intent. However, that's how it honestly felt when some of us were offering, and this is a big deal for those who don't know, we were offering to showcase the Elder Scrolls Online in our front page feature streams on Twitch during Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month or other months, and we were reaching out to coordinate something, you know, maybe to showcase ESO to the, you know, to everybody else. But we get no response, which led me to just streaming Elden Ring instead of ESO for a front page stream on Twitch, which is, you know, fine by me. I had a lot of fun doing that too. Meanwhile, some others on the ESO stream team, you know, ask for promotional tweets or similar things, and they get a lightning fast response. And it makes you think, like, are some of us being taken seriously? Are we a joke? Are we like an ornament and nothing more to you guys? There's a certain point at which the lack of follow-ups and the severe lack of communication couldn't be attributed to, oh, you know, they're human. Oh, they must be busy or whatever, you know, because it's happened so many times. I should also mention that it wasn't just a content creator outreach that some of us were trying to do, like getting more developers onto the ESOU podcast. Our communities offered, despite Update 35, despite the shit shows from the past year, our communities offered to involve anyone from ZeniMax to do casual raids or outside of their usual streamer sphere, or to take them along on content runs and get to know them, to humanize them essentially, and maybe repair some relations. But again, no serious follow-ups, no meaningful communication. It just felt like they weren't at all interested as a company in being humanized. Or maybe their corporate team thought it was a risk, or maybe they really were too busy, whatever. The only person that showed up to one of those things was Kevin, who's fantastic. But those communities also just kind of gave up again on reaching out, as expected, and that was that. During 2023, I was also approached by several ESO stream team members who had the audacity to try to pressure me or request that certain people not be featured on the ESOU podcast, that some videos of mine, in fact, on YouTube be taken down, or that some people they saw in the ESOU Discord, my server, they didn't like should be banned. And I was just fed up with that middle school nonsense. And it just exemplified to me how two-faced, cowardly, and sycophantic some of these so-called team members were. And the kicker here is, as I would find out in 2024, it doesn't matter if you try to play nice or reciprocate or give basic human respect to some of these individuals. They will not stop. They want more, and they just don't give the same respect back. All of this pushed me away from ESO. I started to make a lot less ESO content. That's when I publicly announced in a video that I'm going to step back from ESO, no more build videos. That's when I publicly announced, I may not cover it as much as I used to because I'm burnt out on everything. Amusingly, I was told that video caused a brief stir over at ZeniMax, and a community manager wanted additional clarification from me, suggesting I should have given them a heads up about what I should be doing with my channel or life before publishing the video. Apparently, game developers also don't watch the first 2 minutes of my YouTube videos where I explain everything. But basically, I decided I was going to gradually transition to non-ESO content so that the algorithm machine god wouldn't smite me. I also decided with close friends and advisors that I was going to quit ESO forever in April 2025, as that was going to be the last in-person meetup I would do for ESO, considering how many people reached out to me saying they really wanted to meet me. Leading from the end of the year 2023 into 2024, I had moved from Pennsylvania to Texas, and I was starting to IRL stream with my streaming backpack, taking my audience to go touch grass. And of course, the 10-year anniversary meetups for Amsterdam and Baltimore were announced for the Elder Scrolls Online, which I treated as more of a funerary celebration than a I'm going to play for another 10 years celebration, given the events that had been happening to me up until this point. Hundreds of people told me they wanted to meet me for the first time in person for both events, and I was telling my partner Becca, hey, we should IRL stream these events because not everyone can make it to Amsterdam in 2024. Not everyone can make it to Baltimore or wherever else in America. We were fully committed. We were willing to pay like $2,000 each for flight tickets, paying like $500 or so for the streaming backpack to go online in Europe. We set aside funds for personal expenses like food, hotel, and suddenly only I was offered by Bethesda ZeniMax through a third-party agency to be flown out for free to Amsterdam, with us having to pay for the remaining costs, including most of Becca's flight costs and so on. Great. Cool. We get there. We're streaming the moment we hit the ground running. We're exhausted but excited, and we're working our asses off. The time zone changes screwing us, and before this event, I had given heads up notices to all of the ESO stream team members months in advance, and I had given heads up notices several days in advance about us streaming IRL. And on the day we landed, I'm DMing certain people as well, including people from my own community, about me streaming, because unlike most IRL streamers, such as Johnny Somali, I wanted to be careful and respectful of people's boundaries. I did not want to get anyone, particularly, VTubers or whatever, on the camera, despite, this being an in-person event that has streamers going to it. I wanted to be respectful and as cautious as humanly possible, because I know what it's like for people to threaten you. I know what it's like for people to try to dox you. So I take privacy very seriously.
So do I.
Beck and I took all the necessary precautions, short of me wearing a cardboard sign saying I was streaming. We had a ring of people around us basically all the time, with whoever was, wearing the streaming backpack being also given the heads up to be careful where they point the camera. We turned the camera down whenever some people approached us. We pinged entire Discord servers, including ESOU, that, hey, we are streaming, and you know what? A lot of people who didn't want to be on stream never came near us and sent us messages saying, "Oh, I see you," or tapped me on the shoulder from behind to say hi without being on camera. The multi-streams were a success. We had a concurrent 3,600 plus live stream viewers on the first day alone,
Wow.
just on Twitch, which is like 4 times the size of the ESO Twitch directory. We recorded, edited, and published videos to YouTube while we were there covering ESO as an event that garnered more views than the next 5 YouTubers or TikTokers combined, who were also invited there. The ROI, or return on investment, for just me, if you're looking at this from a influencer marketing perspective,
I think this has become meandering and I'm done with it.
Worm Online is a massively multiplayer online sandbox game that was officially released in 2006, and in spite of the rather dramatic title of this video, it's one that I look back on quite fondly. At the time, it was incredibly ambitious, and the forerunner to many of the most popular games today. Even today, I'd call it ambitious. It's difficult for me to really express the whole geist that is Worm Online, but the main inspiration for me to make this video was seeing all those Zoomers who act like empty Half-Life maps are dismally unsettling. Yeah, well, Worm's got the inexorable decay of all you loved and cherished. Worm at its core is a survival crafting game, and while that might sound passé, it's important to remember that Worm Online was from 2006. I just want you to conceptualize that. When I first played Worm, I was using dial-up. Every context menu took 2 seconds to load, and I didn't complain because that was normal back then. This isn't really a review, more of a rambling with a vaguely philosophical bent about what we can learn about Worm rather than anything else. But before I can do any of that, first I've got to answer, what the heck is Worm Online? Through the magic of remembering my password, I wake up where I last went to bed 10 years ago. This vast flat field used to be a bright, vibrant town, but it's since been abandoned.
I like
Now
the
it's rotted
graphics.
away, leaving behind nothing but the paving stones. It's also infested with hostile creatures, and I'm not really equipped for combat, so it's best to move on. And I don't normally do this, but arachnophilia warning. If you're a fan of spiders, you're gonna love this one. On that note, check out this giant spider that's trying to kill me. Isn't it adorable? This game is a true sandbox. Everything you see around here was built by other players. Even these enormous roads that I've been walking on have been painstakingly assembled piece by piece by fellow Wormians for the benefit of everyone, and without playing it yourself, it's difficult to understand the amount of effort that has gone into making these. The terrain is as simple as it is genius. Each tile is made up of 4 corners, and each of those corners has a height value that you can increase or decrease through terraforming. You can use a shovel to remove dirt from one location, and then drop it elsewhere to increase the elevation. Do that thousands upon thousands of times, and you might approach a fraction of the amount of dirt that had to be moved to make these roads. When this server was put online 10 years ago, everything around here was an untamed wilderness, but now its back is crisscrossed by the scars of man. Even though Xanadu is 32 by 32 kilometers big, there's not many places that don't have some trace of another player. But after so long, many of the traces are just that. Almost everything can decay, but terraformed land will remain, and so all over the place you'll find these flat portions of land overgrown with trees or rotted down to the cobbles. You'll also find the wild remains of vineyards and orchards left to spread in their owner's absence. If you're paying money to maintain a settlement, you'll have drastically reduced decay on all of the buildings within its radius. It also prevents other players from building their own things nearby, but while you might know that someone is paying the upkeep to keep the lights on, when you explore these places, they almost feel even more lifeless than the ruins overrun with nature. With these sites as my guide, I made my way towards the major settlement of Glass Hollow. These are the only places in the game not built entirely by the players, and they serve as spawning points for people who haven't joined or created their own settlement yet. In case you were wondering just how big this map is, I've been walking for about 2 hours after Rip Van Winkling myself in the ruins of the old village, and I've only gotten about this far. This is just to orient myself, because if I die, I at least want to know how to get there back from a spawn point. In order to truly give you the Worm Online experience, I've got to survive and craft in this survival crafting game. That means I've got to find some corner of this map that hasn't already been built on and also isn't complete crap. And if you want to be within an hour's walk from a spawn point, that's often wishful thinking. I consider settling on this mountaintop just for the fun of it, but then I realize that it's infested with fruit trees. Fruit trees are the devil in Worm Online, and that's because they hardly give you any logs. In fact, they're so awful that there's almost no reason to even cut them down, but that's insidious because then when you cut down all the useful trees and leave only the fruit trees, they'll spread and fill the gaps until they're all that's left. Vast forests of fruit trees like this are sometimes an indication that someone many years ago probably deforested everything to grind wood cutting and then just let the fruit trees spread. Anyway, after running around a bit more, I finally decide what's the least appealing place to settle for anyone, and that leads me to this valley between two mountains with zero natural resources. There's massive slopes everywhere that make terraforming a nightmare, and there's no water anywhere near. Perfect.
Yay.
I do a bit of a walk around, and all I find are some old ruins as well as this dilapidated building called a backyard, so it's probably fine. It's not like I'm gonna be staying here for long anyway. I spawned with most of my tools, but I don't have everything, and so the biggest priority for any new base is finding a source of iron. You can prospect the rocks on the surface to find if there's a vein in a 7x7 radius, and by prospecting different areas until it vanishes, you'll be able to pinpoint it. Once I know where it is, I can use a pickaxe to start tunneling into the rock face. This introduces the main element of Worm Online, your stamina bar and your action timer. You're mainly going to be queuing up actions and then waiting for them to be completed. You can queue up multiple actions, but performing actions uses stamina, and the lower your starting stamina, the longer the action will take, so you need to stop and rest every once in a while. But after 10 minutes of doing nothing but tunneling, I've finally broken into the mountain. A little bit. I've got to go even further in if I want that iron, and there's a bit of a dilemma. There's no water around anywhere, and I'm starting to get thirsty. I had a clay pot that I used to carry water around, but I've already drank it all. If you're dehydrated, you'll regenerate next to no stamina, so this is an issue. However, I can cut down a tree, cut it into logs, and then cut some kindling from those. I can use that kindling to start a fire, and then I can throw some iron chunks I found while foraging into the fire, and after waiting several minutes, it melts into iron lumps. Then I can take those iron lumps, use them on my small anvil, and create a ball and then a chain. There's a chance to fail, by the way. Then I can attach them to get a ball and a chain, and by swinging it around, I can start to divine the location of an underground water source. I'm sure some of you have watched Joss Strife Hayes' video on Worm Online, but I'd personally disagree that Worm Online is complicated. It's mostly just convoluted. It's not conceptually difficult to look up on the wiki and find the two items you need to rub together to create a bucket. Oh, it's a plank and some nails, but it is less than ideal. The way that you need to select every item to use it on another item to then go down a context menu so that you can select what action to take is where Worm really shows its wrinkles. It's from the spreadsheet era of computer games. This video isn't really about that though, so just take this sort of clunky crafting system in stride, because Worm is so much more interesting than just its technical shortcomings. Anyway, I find a spot where I can get some water from the ground, but the only problem is it's on the side of a cliff, so I decided to deal with my thirst for now and forge on into the mine. You know how it took 10 minutes to make the entrance? Well, it's gonna take another 10 to break out another tile, and this is with a decent quality pickaxe and mining skill. If you were a beginner, this would take significantly longer. But just like that, I've found my iron vein. This will be very important, but I've got to mine on. My thirst is making waiting for my stamina to regen extremely painful, but thanks to remembering my brother's password, I was able to pilot his body to where I was while I was mining and double up the effort. Running multiple accounts at once is pretty common in this game, and the developers don't complain that much because if you want them to be useful, that just means buying premium for 2 accounts instead of 1. After much more mining, I finally uncover that tile where I divined water. And just like magic, if I take a bunch of these rock shards that I've generated while mining, I can turn them into a fountain that will automatically fill with water as long as it's on top of that tile. That'll solve all of my hydration issues, just as soon as it fills up. I'm also knocking out another little alcove to fit some smelting stuff, because now it's iron time. I mine the iron vein just like the walls, but instead of getting rocks, I get iron ores. If I throw those into the campfire, I can get iron lumps, and now with an effectively infinite supply of iron, I can make all of the tools I need. This should give you the gist of it all. It's a lot of crafting the specific things that you need to make the other things that you want, such as chopping apart these trees for logs, and then sawing them into planks to make this cart so that I can move around heavier stuff. And then making a bunch of iron ribbons so that I can make mine supports. They're a bit of a pain to make, and while not strictly necessary, they make the mine a whole lot less jagged and horrible, so they're 100% necessary as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, the point is that everything in Worm Online takes time. Okay, I guess that's a bit of a constant of the entire universe, but you know what I mean. This all might sound hellaciously monotonous, and while I will admit that this won't appeal to everyone, it definitely has its own distinctive appeal. I talked about this in my barotrauma video, but it's far more pertinent here, so I'll reiterate it. I view time as a sort of universal currency that game designers can use to impart value into the virtual spaces. Whether it's a maxed RuneScape account or master prestige in Call of Duty, I'm willing to bet that there's something in gaming that sits close to your heart purely because of how much time and effort it took to acquire. The psychological profundities of why we as humans can ascribe so much meaning to what is essentially electrons held in suspension between plates of metal is one I'm frankly not qualified to expand upon, but it seems reasonable to say that people care about video games. In fact, some people care about video games a little too much. In action games, this is usually expressed through hijacking the centers of your brain that would really prefer to reward you for acquiring useful life skills so that they instead reward you for P-ranking Ultra Kill. The appeal is a combination of curiosity to see what's next, as well as the desire for personal challenge and growth. But then there's the curious category of the commonly called cozy game. Worm Online is definitely in the cozy category, though its spreadsheet nightmare interface probably scares off most of the casuals right at the gates. I remember back in 2010 reading forum posts about people begging them to update the interface only to get shot down by power players who said, "I like it this way." By the way, what you're looking at now is the improved UI, but I digress. I've explored this phenomenon in my video about various farming games, and my ultimate conclusion was that the cozy game formula is to constantly present the player with a series of small goals that lead seamlessly into the next, while also keeping each step of the process not quite mindless, but not exactly taxing either. Like right now, I've got to get some clay so that I can build a proper forge, but my awful location has none anywhere near, so I've got to drag my cart all the way to the ocean to get some. Yes, it might not look like it, but I assure you that I am dragging a small cart. Yes, I know this game looks janky, but this is more of a spiritual analysis than a technical one. Also, why are there so many spiders? At least someone was kind enough to build this guard tower nearby so that I can have them tank all the spider bites instead. Anyway, because it's a goal in service of another goal, this long trip doesn't feel nearly as excruciating. I'm not necessarily thinking about digging all this clay, I'm thinking about what I'm gonna use it for, and because it took me time to get, mentally, clay feels especially important or valuable. Time is the ultimate limited resource, and each of us has only got so much, so even though it's only data, I've spent all my precious time gathering it, so of course I'm gonna ascribe some kind of value to it. Obviously, this is contingent upon the game giving you some reason you would want to spend your time on it, but this is the strength of the sandbox. I'm hesitant to make grand, sweeping statements about all of humanity, but the fact that a sandbox game is the most popular video game of all time speaks to this idea that human beings have an innate desire to express themselves into their environment. Whether it's a live, laugh, love poster in your living room or a one-to-one replica of the USS Enterprise D in Minecraft, it's all the same core tenet. Time in this case becomes the currency required to express yourself, and with this transactional mindset, whatever you build ends up containing all the value that you've poured into its constituent components. Not spending the time actually cheapens it. Looking at someone's Factorio megabase that they built in the editor, it's like, yeah, it's impressive, but not as impressive than if you'd done it normally, so even other people are sensitive to the value of your time. There was this cave I encountered on my travels, and the scale is simply incredible. To get the ceilings this high, whoever made it had to mine down hundreds of times per tile. This place was most likely used as a massive quarry to generate stone chunks for bricks, and the lowering of the floors was mostly just a side effect over potentially years of extracting resources.
Wow.
Just thinking about how many roads, walls, bridges, and guard towers came out of this place gives me this sense of player-driven scale that so few games can even come close to replicating. Mechanically, you could say that queuing simple action timers to achieve this effect is a bit heavy-handed, but it does communicate to the player their effectiveness as they gain skill or pick up better equipment, though more on that later. I've managed to build that forge, set up some storage, and flatten some land. My goal is to simply make a little homestead here as an example, but there's some rather ambitious builds in this game. Unfortunately, there's no tower guards around here, so I've got to kill everything myself. Fortunately, I've got a 70 quality two-handed sword someone gave me before I logged off a million years ago. Shout out to Mordo Stalin, wherever you are. The problem with this is that it leaves me with wounds, which reduces my maximum stamina. That means any action I want to do, like digging, is going to take significantly longer. The light ones heal over time, but medium wounds won't heal at all unless you apply a healing cover, which you can get from mixing together some random things you found in the grass. Except you can fail to make the cover, and once you succeed in making it once, you can still fail to apply it, causing the healing cover to explode and setting you back to square one. This is an echo of the older Worm design, where this logic applied to basically everything. Back in the day, if you wanted to make a bed, it was common wisdom to apply the headboard to the bed frame instead of the other way around, because if you failed to create it, you'd only end up disintegrating the active item, saving you from blowing up the much more expensive bed frame. Also, pretty much every action took 12 seconds regardless of your skill. Worm Online is still pretty brutal, but it's funny to remember that it used to be so much worse. I've also tamed these horses. You can ride them if you have over 21 body control, but it's impossible to get if you're not paying for premium. Mostly I want them for something else, though. Yeah, I should probably mention that there's about a million different skills that you'll slowly gain over time, but if you want anything respectable, you'll need to grind and grind and grind. In Worm Online, you'll pretty much always want raw materials, and so right now I'm cutting down some logs and turning them into planks. Because I have around 50 in woodcutting, the trees I cut down will usually be around 50 quality, and that means I can make planks of up to 50 quality. Quality is in almost everything, and affects various things depending on the item. For something like planks, it increases the success rate of building with them in conjunction with your carpentry skill, but for something like a tool, it'll generally decrease the time that something like digging takes, as well as increases the chance of higher quality yields.
I like
Right
the
now,
grass.
I'm making a large cart, and even though I've got over 50 carpentry, I've only got 20 fine carpentry, so my chances of successfully attaching a plank is only around 40%. I'm not going to go into it too much, but there's some insane skill bloat in this game. And a legendary blacksmith would struggle to make a simple carving knife because it takes weaponsmithing instead of blacksmithing. By the way, a hatchet isn't considered a weapon, but a carving knife is. If I fail, it just means I need to try again, so it's effectively the same as making the timer take longer, except with the chance of being extra annoyed when you find yourself in the unlucky universe. It does make grinding for the higher skill levels more appealing, so from a game design standpoint, it's not without merit, but especially when combined with the interface, it results in even more clicks. You've heard about context-sensitive game design. Well, Worm Online is about as context-insensitive as physically possible. Everything is context menus, and clicking on the one specific thing that lets you do the other thing is everything. The large cart can carry even more dirt, but even though it can fit 100, I've only got the body strength to drag around 80 at a time. Quick aside, I'm making 2 sets of horseshoes. Once I've got them, their quality is pretty low, so I decide to improve them. That process requires slowly applying whatever specific item the game demands and rolling for a chance to increase their quality every time you attempt it. If you fail, it gets damaged and you need to repair it, which reduces the quality a bit. For metal, you either need to hammer, polish, temper, sharpen, or use a lump. And even though I've got over 50 blacksmithing, my slave only has around 40 mining, which means that they can only mine 40 quality iron ore. The moment the horseshoe is up to that quality and asks for a lump, I can't improve it anymore because the lump needs to be higher quality than the item you're trying to improve. That means I'm stuck around 40 quality, even though with my skill I could go up as high as 60 if I had the lumps. Well, it'll make the horses a bit faster at least. And just look at this horse's equipment. I've got to expand this whole drop-down menu for every body part. And even though the front 2 hooves are just there, to get the back 2 I need to expand 4 hooves first. It appears that when they were first designing the equipment system, they basically hard-coded in human features without questioning whether they'd like to add equipment for non-humans, and then they were forced to work backwards from there. It goes 20 kilometers per hour now, which is actually pretty good considering the fastest you can walk around is 16 kilometers per hour on cobblestone. I think I've shown enough of this game to get to my general criticisms of Worm Online, and my first major one would be this quality mechanic. I actually like it conceptually. It's something that rewards and reflects the amount of effort that you've put into your skills, which is communicated effectively through gameplay. It visibly engenders a sort of pride in your skills and equipment, and in larger groups it creates this interesting dynamic where tasks are naturally delegated towards the players who are the most adept at them. It allows you to specialize and cooperate, relying on other players to compensate for your deficiencies. It also means that the skills you enjoy the most become your strongest, and ideally causes everyone to filter into the tasks that they like most. It's a very interesting and ambitious philosophy, but it's fairly effective. It's no secret that Worm is in its twilight years, and I think it's doing better than most MMOs from the period, but its daily average users is around 1,000. However, I'm going to be pessimistic and assume that half of those are alt accounts. In Josh's video, he mentions that improved tutorials would help player retention, and while I'll have to agree spiritually, I'd say that what's much more important is the actual beginner experience is appealing. As it stands, the newbie experience in Worm Online is one of the worst. Fundamentally, I'd boil this down to the quality mechanic. It's an excellent reward for putting the effort in, but in rewarding the power players, it leaves everyone else mostly irrelevant. If you're starting out and want to become a blacksmith, well, with over 10 years of grinding to catch up on, to become competitive, you would need to grind for hundreds of hours to be capable of making a tool that would earn more than an expression of pained encouragement from the other players. That's fine, actually. Again, I'm not against delegation, but here's the issue. Well, you can't contribute by making high-quality tools, so what can you do? Collect raw materials for the people who have the skills, of course. It's not glamorous, but it's a way to feel helpful. Except you're wrong. If you want to make bricks without the mining skill to get high-quality shards, your bricks will all be trash. It's the same story for planks or anything you want to do. You can use them, but anything made from them would be low quality too. Houses and walls would decay much faster than if they'd just been made by a veteran who can churn out 90 quality bricks like it's nothing. They also have a lower chance of attaching successfully, which means that they waste more time compared to their higher quality counterparts. That's not to mention that someone with maxed skills could make something about 5 times as fast as you and all higher quality. So again, even at the raw resource level, there's a massive power gap. The only thing newbies can really contribute to the power players is paving things, setting up mine supports, or digging, because these are the only things that are quality agnostic. There is a use for high quality dirt, but it's mostly used for raising land elsewhere. Except, in the case of digging, the maximum slope you can dig is 3 times your digging level, so even then you'll only be able to flatten things that are already mostly flat. So, welcome to Worm Online. Your starting job opportunities are bricklayer and dirt mover. It's no wonder it struggles to retain players. I'm not saying it's impossible to get into, I'm just saying it's not as enjoyable as it otherwise could be. But changing anything now would piss off the whales whose money keeps the lights on, so it's stuck like this. You could, of course, ignore all of that and set out on your own, living off the land and everything you make yourself. And that's not an incorrect way to play, but you'll be at a marked disadvantage if you're not using high-quality tools. I could bang out the beginnings of this settlement in the better part of a day, but that's because I've already got decent skills. It would be significantly harder as a beginner. I mean, that's what I did when I first started playing, and I had fun, but again, I'm a little more driven than most people, and it was also like 15 years ago. Also, it's important to note that without good equipment, pretty much everything in the wilderness will kill you, and then it's a 30-minute walk to get back from the starting town, plus the eventual tango with what killed you last time to try and get your stuff back. To earn fighting experience, you need to kill things, but when everything kills you instead, it's a bit of a catch-22. While I love the concept of slowly gaining skill and prominence in your craft, it ends up leaving the newer players feeling disenfranchised and aimless. There needs to be a clear pipeline from newbie to master that isn't just grind the skill for hundreds of hours. Even if you wanted to focus entirely on making things that have value despite your skill, such as iron ribbons for mine supports, the skill gains from that are insignificant compared to improving tools. In order to use your time effectively, you're stuck raising the quality of things even though no one will ever want to use them. That's not just unfun, that's depressing. Realistically, I think it's a little ridiculous that someone through apparent divine knowledge could create godly rock shards while mining the same exact rock as someone else. I like quality, but I think a compromise would be making all the raw materials quality agnostic. This would allow for many universally valuable things that anyone can understand and contribute to regardless of skill, while skill would still allow you to generate them faster or get more per action. This would encourage bot accounts and other unscrupulous activities, but having a newbie experience this bad simply because of botters would be the definition of throwing the baby out with the bathwater. Anyway, after
the game's
building
too
all
old.
this, all that's really lacking now is a house. I want it to be a respectable estate, so obviously it's got to be stone, but that means I've got to go get more clay. At least this time I don't need to drag around a small cart and can instead hitch those horses I found up to my large cart. By the way, in this game you can automatically walk forwards by pressing X, and this auto walk is easily the best quality of life feature in the entire game, because for most of this I can just be doing something else, like writing the script. Over here you'll see a beautiful example of a player-owned settlement. One disadvantage something like Worm Online has compared to Minecraft would be the lack of transformativeness. That is to say, in Worm, a wall is only a wall, but in Minecraft, a carefully placed block could instead be the door to your replica of the Back to the Future DeLorean. In Worm, your capability for expression will be limited by what the game's artists have managed to add in, making the possibilities linear rather than multiplicative. That being said, I actually think this is a good thing because it forces people's builds to fit into the game's aesthetics. Regardless, it's interesting thinking about the person who built all of this over the months, but I've got clay to dig up. Activate Turbo Boost now! By the way, while I'm doing this, I'm still puppeteering my other account to make stone bricks, but once I'm done digging like 200 times, I've got enough to build the first floor of my house. By the way, this trip takes about 10 minutes, but on the grand scale of the entire map, it's right next door. I've also got to go collect some sand, but I've only got to dig like 20 times to get enough. Back at the base, I can drop that off on the bulk storage bin and then force my puppet to start making mortar from the sand and clay. I'll need 20 per wall, and while he makes the rest of that, I can start building. I know this isn't a video about the jank, but it literally took me like 20 minutes to figure out how to actually plan the build I wanted. Now I get to slowly build this house brick by brick. Assuming an average of 15 seconds per brick, each one of these walls will take me about 5 minutes to build. Fortunately, that other account has pretty high masonry, so as soon as it's finished making mortar, I can get it to help out with some of these walls. Of course, I'm doing this all myself, but this is the kind of collaborative effort that should be encouraged mechanically. After getting all the walls up, now I've got to install the floors. But my alt account doesn't have enough paving skill to build the stone slab floors, so I'm on my own for this one. At least I could get them to make and bring the slabs to the worksite. I also want a second floor to prove that I'm not poor, and now I can build spiral staircases. I remember when multi-story buildings were just added, and they've always been janky, so I can only imagine the spaghetti code that actually makes these work. Whatever, now that I'm up here, I can start making the floor of the second story. Okay, I've suddenly decided that I want to make this a true medieval-styled house and build the second floor out of timber-framed walls instead of plain planks. But guess what that means? It means I've got to go get more clay! Hooray! I brought the puppet with me because I don't care if the clay quality sucks anymore. It's not like I'm going to mind the walls decaying, seeing as I'll be leaving as soon as I'm done anyway. Oh god, the champion spider's on us. Quit standing around and doing nothing, tower guards. I don't care if I've already called you, it's clearly right there. Well, that takes care of that, I guess. What? What is this? What is this seethe shack that someone's built here while I was gone? Okay, so apparently someone actually cared, and that one-by-one dilapidated shack that didn't even have a roof belonged to someone active in this area. It's like a passive-aggressive roommate leaving sticky notes everywhere. By the way, this giant field of nothing where the only visible build is mine and a road is what he's laying claim to. It's funny more than anything, but it does segue nicely into an issue with this sort of sandbox MMO, and that's land grabs. Clearly in this case it's a little ridiculous, but if you want to set out on your own, it's difficult to find unspoiled land. Almost all seafront property will be claimed by someone else, or at the very least bear the scars of the last person to live there. The places closest to the starting area will be filled out the most, and you'll need to go deeper and deeper to find an available place, which means a longer walk from civilization should you die. Unless, that is, you shell out for your own settlement. The decay mechanics try to address this by making unattended structures return to the earth, but there are many things that it can't touch, like flattened land and paved ground, so it becomes extremely unappealing to settle there. That means over time, half the map ends up filled with dead builds. You can't just wipe the server and start from scratch. People's settlements are on there. So the solution is, as ever, to add more servers so that you can do the same things there as well. The last batch of servers was added in 2020, and now there's 16 different maps to repeat the cycle on. 17 if you count the tutorial island. The first come, first serve aspect of this isn't the worst, but it does feel like there needs to be a better method of returning builds to some semblance of nature by smoothing excessive slopes and letting trees tear through pavement. Hell, you could go all the way. Instead of making them just disappear, make dilapidated walls and fences harvestable for free raw materials to really encourage people to tear them down. That's how it worked throughout history, after all. It would certainly assuage this haunted feeling that seems to emanate from so much of this game. Also, the decay of these massive builds isn't always a good thing, even if their creators aren't playing anymore. You have some things that are eternal, like this whole damned pyramid that someone's trying to build, but this is the exception. It seems reasonable that you would want your sandbox to show off the best of people's builds, but even the biggest, most ambitious settlement will crumble to dust and leave nothing but their ghosts as soon as the money runs out. So perhaps there should be a process of turning a player-owned settlement into a permanent fixture of the world? That way, traveling through this world would at least feel more like visiting a museum rather than an archaeological site. I mean, it's not like they have problems with just making new servers anyway. Anyway, I start working on the second floor, and as much as I'd like my puppet to help me, he doesn't have 21 carpentry, so even though he has the skill to build these walls, he's not allowed to build them on the second floor. Like, it would be nice if I could start the wall and then another player could continue it without needing the skill, but nope, I'm on my own up here as well. Whatever, I'll get him to make the shingles for the roof in the meantime. Running an alt in tandem certainly speeds things up. I'm not quite sure how to feel about it, but I like to think it's a replacement for what the game would feel like if it were still in its heyday and I had friends. There we go, all finished. Isn't it beautiful? Honestly, this concept has so much potential because it combines the masculine urge to homestead with the feminine urge to decorate. It's also quite meditative, and with games like web fishing hitting it big, there's obviously a growing demand for these low-stress, chill-out and socialize type games. I was originally going to end it here, but since that guy whined about me building in his backyard, I've got a little more I want to do. It's gonna take another 560 planks and several hours, but it's gonna be worth it. With 55 levels in carpentry, I'm capable of building houses up to 6 stories tall, and so obviously I've got to build a tall one. But I don't want it to take too many materials, so a 1x1 tower should be good enough. And to really tie this little outpost together, I'm gonna put a bell on top so that I can ring it and tell the whole world that I'm here. There. It's perfect. I hope our friend likes it. While I'm at it, I might as well cover this whole place with a settlement token. It costs like $5, but I guess that's what my patrons are for. This will let me spawn here, and it'll stop anyone else from building in its radius, so no more backyards. I have decided to call this place Bell's End Outpost, because it's got a strong and tall bell tower as its defining feature, and for absolutely no other reasons at all. So there it is, my own corner of the map that will remain as long as I remember to feed it money. However, to make something that will truly endure, there's one last thing I want to make. I'm going to build a guard tower. To do that, I've got to yet again embark upon the journey to get clay, but this time I've somehow managed to convince the 2 players that I used to play Worm with to hop on and give me a hand, with the 4th one being another alt. And I actually love this scene of everyone riding in a cart to get to the same location to go to work. And while they're less valuable on PvE servers, they are useful as landmarks and safety for people without the combat skills. PvP servers. Now there's a topic, but I'll begin with this.
GeForce Now
While I
is
do think
not
that
running
building for the
well.
sake of building in Worm Online has value, it feels like it's lacking a unifying reason to be doing anything. The player interactions and sense of community are one strength, and the fact that players naturally end up building things like markets and long underwater tunnels to connect lakes to the ocean so that boats can travel inland shows an emergent complexity that cannot be understated. But the fact of the matter is, there's not much to do apart from treating it like a tool for creative expression. In that, it's much less effective than something like Minecraft, especially with how hamstrung beginners will feel, as truly ambitious builds are locked behind months of grinding. With the available alternatives today, it's difficult to justify the efforts to achieve that expression, especially when it's in a server you don't control and
Not too good. No wonder. I'm going to restart my computer. I will be right back. I'm terribly sorry.